connecting you. This is Iowa's News Now at 6.
And we start tonight at 6 with live team coverage of this winter weather making its way into the state of Iowa and into eastern Iowa tonight. Got Case and Frericks live in the Road Warrior tonight down in Johnson County, checking in on road conditions. Natashama at Lindale Mall in Cedar Rapids, checking in on the last-minute shoppers and how they're handling everything here. Now that they're probably getting some last-minute holiday shopping days shaved up. But we start tonight with our weather first forecast from meteorologist Nick Stewart. He's live at Cedar Rapids Public Works. Nick, 6 o'clock was when everything was going to go into effect, those alerts, those warnings. Here we are, it is 0 hour.
Yeah, it has been 3,250 days, almost 9 full years since we were under the last blizzard warning, the city of 5 seasons. And right now, again, live at the Public Works, they are getting ready. The last couple of minutes or so, within the last about minute or two, a lot more plows are getting ready to hit the roads as, again, that blizzard warning is now officially in effect. About 100 pieces of snow fighting equipment getting ready to hit the street as we go into this winter storm.
We've been trying to check all of our equipment out, making sure all the lights are working, all the spreaders are working, making sure that we have the material ready to go, watching the forecasts as they change, and trying to guess how the storm's gonna attack us.
And that biggest change has been the recent upgrade to a blizzard warning. That blizzard warning now in effect for the entire state of Iowa along and north of I-80. This is where we do expect the biggest combination of strong wind gusts that will create near whiteout conditions, especially late tomorrow and through the day on Friday. A live view of our downtown Cedar Rapids from I-380. You can see traffic is moving along just fine, but it is a cold one. Current temperature in Cedar Rapids, just 19 degrees. That current wind chill, 6 at this hour. Those really cold temperatures mean, one, the snow will rapidly accumulate on the roadways, and it'll also be very light, fluffy snow. You can see on the radar and satellite view that snow is coming. We're seeing a few light flakes here in Cedar Rapids right now, but within the next about hour or two, things will likely rapidly decline. Commute forecast early tomorrow morning. Snow-covered roads will be an issue, but by late tomorrow afternoon, that's when the wind really gets going. We're talking about blowing and drifting even though the snow is ending. And then through the day on Friday, near blizzard conditions, if not full-on blizzard, and wind chills dropping 30 to 40 degrees below zero. We'll talk about this winter storm and what it means for holiday travel in your full forecast in a few minutes.
Nick, thank you. Continuing our team coverage with the Road Warrior meteorologist Case and Frericks out on I-80 in Johnson County tonight. Again, you saw at 5 o'clock, Case, and even though the storm is and those alerts go into effect here at 6 o'clock, already seen some flurries flying. What are things looking like where you are right now?
Yeah, Mitch, we have started to see a couple more flurries out there, but conditions still really, really good here as we're heading eastbound on I-80. We're just a couple miles now outside, actually, of Iowa City. There's a live look on the roads here. Traffic flowing fine. Not seeing, of course, any accumulation. We did travel west quite a few ways. We went maybe about a mile or two actually past Williamsburg, and we were kind of right on the line of where that snow is beginning to kind of work its way east a little bit more. So that's where we saw a few more flurries. We decided to kind of turn it around here, but it's obviously moving on its way. If you monitor some of the Iowa DOT's kind of traffic map and what the roadways are actually kind of looking like, you can see where that snow has already moved through, such as portions across central Iowa, Des Moines. A lot of those roads are partially to even mostly covered out there. So that's working its way on to the east here. We're going to be dealing with that here, and I would say maybe about the next hour, 7 o'clock, things going to likely be looking a little bit different here out on the roadways. So live near Iowa City, I'm meteorologist Case and Frericks, Iowa's News Now.
Case and thinking, of course, road crews out there as well. Here's a look at I-380 and Wilson Avenue in southwest Cedar Rapids from the DOT cam there. All those crews, whether they're from the city of Cedar Rapids or whatever city they're from the state of Iowa, going to do what they can to keep things running as smoothly as they see right now as the storm starts to make its way towards the area. But of course, you get snow drifts, you get crashes. That could lead to a lot of shutdowns.
If you don't need to travel, don't travel. I know there's with the holidays, a lot of people will have to travel, and just be mindful of that and giving yourself plenty of time to. Yeah,
just rethink things as things start to get looking like this from winters have passed. If you don't need to be out there, don't go out there. If you stick to main roads, snow emergency routes, that'll be your best bet if you do have to go out for work or whatever it may take you onto the roads. Now, we've heard about people living in cities maybe not having as tough a time with the storm with buildings and whatever could be blocking those winds, which is going to be the big problem with this system. But if you're in rural parts of Iowa and it's wide open, we're talking about maybe hours, possibly even days of you just having to stay where you are, waiting for things to get cleared or for power to be restored in some cases. Iowa's News Now anchor Nick Wide continuing team coverage as he checks in on things in Benton County.
That's a sound people in rural Iowa could hear before they can leave home. With blizzard conditions forecast over a long period, some living on gravel could be stuck for a while.
Hopefully they've got food, grocery items taken care of to cover that timeline, certainly heating.
That's because when it comes to trying to keep any roadways clear, engineers like Myron Perazek has to prioritize until there's no more good to be done.
If you're 15, 20 minutes behind a snowplow and see that what they have just plowed and accomplished has pretty much been put back into a large drift by Mother Nature, we're not accomplishing anything.
That's when the work will have to stop for a while, but once it's safe again for crews, they'll be employing some heavy machinery to get the job done on all surfaces.
We do have a snow blower that fits on a large wheel loader, but that's usually brought out after we've tried everything we've got first to see if we can't get people open, roads open and people out.
And in a worst case scenario, crews in Benton County and across eastern Iowa may have to deploy the biggest snow blowers you can find around here.
If they can stay home, that would be the best thing. When we have to work around stranded cars out in the rural area, that stranded car becomes a major obstacle.
Again, the best thing you can do for crews, as long as they're out on these roads over the next 72 hours, is to stay out of their way and just stay home and stay safe. In rural Benton County, Nick White, Iowa's News Now.
Now, a glass half full approach for some people is that right now there isn't much, if any, snow on the ground anywhere. You saw a little bit of a dusting behind Nick there. Officials say that could help their crews buy some time, but of course the longer that wind blows with this system, the less that'll matter. Well, this week's winter blast and that blizzard right in the middle, of course, everybody's holiday plans, not just throwing a wrench in possible travel itineraries, but any last-minute shopping you might have to do. Iowa's News Now reporter Nada Sharma continuing our team coverage live in Cedar Rapids tonight at Lindale Mall. Nada, the clock really starting to tick on those shoppers now. What's the mood as the weather moves in?
Mitch, there is no shortage of last-minute shoppers here, that is for sure. But besides finalizing their shopping, those blizzard warnings are weighing heavy on the minds of everyone that we talk to. There is 3.5 more days left before Christmas shopping. But now factor in a blizzard warning. Christmas 2022 is gearing up to be a lot different than the ones in the past. The coldest weather on Christmas in nearly 40 years is coming. But these shoppers say they have a job to do, and they will do it before the weather takes a turn for the worse.
I'm always a last-minute shopper, and this year thought I had 4 whole days left. It turns out I have 2. So since it's going to snow, I headed out.
Unfortunately, we were going to go actually see some family and get some more shopping done on the way there, but the blizzard's probably going to keep us here. We're not for sure yet, but it might make our plans get pushed back for January for some family Christmas stuff. So.
Now, Lindale Mall will be open on Friday until 9 p.m. and on Christmas Eve from 9 to 5. But keep an eye out on Iowa's News Now weather ticker for any changes or closings. At Lindale Mall, Nada Sharma, Iowa's News Now.
And if you're still waiting on holiday deliveries, you might be waiting past the holiday at this point. After the break on Iowa's News Now, how all this winter weather could mess up with those seasonal shipments. Well, this week's winter storm might be messing up your holiday deliveries. Iowa's News Now State House reporter Skylar Filal has seen how shipping companies are handling everything.
Probably 90% of the vehicles I saw were full-size semi-trucks. And they were in either ditch, they were in the median, they were on their side.
The Plymouth driver, noticing the danger of high winds and icy roads last week, saw nearly 25 stranded semis on I-35. Most of them big shipping companies like FedEx and Amazon.
They are going to be delivering close to 100 million packages a day.
As the winter storm makes its way to Iowa, shipping companies are working to ensure your package arrives at your doorstep on time. But don't be surprised if your gift gets delayed.
Depending on the weather conditions, we're out there delivering. We're going to continue delivering until the weather conditions state that we can't.
While their main priority is keeping their drivers safe, shipping companies are working on their coordination and communication with their drivers that allow them to find the best and safest route.
They will go around that closed highway and they will still get it there. They may be a few hours late or maybe a day late.
Tracking shipments over the years, the company Ship Matrix finds that nearly 98% of packages arrive on time, even with bad weather.
With the extensive data we capture, we have found that even when there is severe weather of the kind you're describing, it could affect 2.5% of the packages not making the commitment time.
The U.S. Postal Service says all their drivers receive items like hats, gloves, and chains for their tires, along with mandatory training so they're prepared to look out for ice on the roads. But there is also something you can do to help carriers deliver your packages safely and on time.
If you could clear a path to your mailbox, whether it be walking up to a porch or just the path to your curbside mailbox.
In Des Moines, Skylar Tallall reporting.
And the snow is just starting to fall here in Cedar Rapids, the very beginning of a long-duration, high-impact winter storm. Blizzard warnings now in effect for all of Iowa, at least along and north of I-80. We'll talk about the cold, the snow, the blizzard conditions, and of course the life-threatening cold in your full forecast after the break.
Former Cedar Rapids Public Safety Commissioner Dave Zahn is laid to rest today, where his 3 decades of service to the city are remembered and celebrated. Zahn died unexpectedly last week from complications after a recent surgery. He was still a police officer for CRPD and had been the city's last public safety commissioner before Cedar Rapids switched their models. Dave Zahn was 59 years old.
And this winter storm is a triple threat. We have the heavy snow that's on the way, the blizzard conditions once the wind begins to increase, and then the life-threatening cold afterward. The city of Cedar Rapids right now, that's where we are. We're in the Public Works Department. They are quickly getting ready for this approaching winter storm. And in order to do so, because of the multitude of issues that we're going to be dealing with, they're changing their tactics when it comes to fighting the snowfall.
We have salt and brine out there, so there's a lot of residual. We will be using a little bit of salt during this storm, but we're going to allow the wind to try to blow the snow off the roads and hopefully not have to use the material until the tail end of the storm.
And part of the reason why we're not seeing a lot of salt being loaded into these trucks is because, quite frankly, it's not going to be very effective. Tomorrow's high temperature is about 8 degrees. It'll be early in the day. That is well below the point at which salt is actually really effective. That's around 20 to 30 degrees. And then by tomorrow night, that low temperature actually drops to about 10 below zero. At that point, the salt is really doing nothing. In fact, it might be hurting things more than anything, as anything that begins to melt will basically just refreeze once again. And so therefore, it's really just not that good. The snow, very light for now in Cedar Rapids, but just off to the west towards Des Moines, you can see the roads are mostly snow covered tonight. That is the snow that's coming our way, the very beginning of what will be a very active couple of days here in eastern Iowa. That blizzard warning now in effect along and north of I-80 for a large portion of the state of Iowa. And the biggest impacts won't really be felt tonight. The biggest impacts with this blizzard will actually be felt late tomorrow and then through the day on Friday, because that's when the wind really begins to ramp up. On the radar and satellite view, you can see all that blue, all that snow in central Iowa. This is just wave one of about 3 different waves of snowfall here in eastern Iowa. As we kind of alluded to yesterday, some dry air kind of fighting off some of that snow as it pushes off to the east. But I think within about the next hour or two, Cedar Rapids will be likely underneath some pretty good snowfall. Right now, you can see off to the west towards Des Moines Metro, all that pink on the map. That is where the roads are completely covered with snow already. It did not take a lot of time for that to happen, but we are already starting to see some deterioration up in Waterloo, over towards Tama and Benton County near the Vinton area as well. So it won't be long before Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and then Dubuque start dealing with much more significant issues with the snowfall. In terms of timing things out with the impacts, tonight into early tomorrow, moderate impacts. We have moderate to heavy snow tonight. That snow will continue through about noon tomorrow. And then temperatures really begin to fall tomorrow as well. Again, the biggest issue will be snow-covered roadways. But then around 1 o'clock tomorrow and then through the day on Friday, the wind drastically increases, and that's when we anticipate blizzard conditions. Difficult, if not impossible, travel conditions will be likely. And that'll also be accompanied by life-threatening cold. On Predictor, you can see at 7 o'clock the snow is overspread most of eastern Iowa. That will continue throughout the night into early tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock, moderate to heavy snow. Around 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, that snow is still ongoing for a good chunk of eastern Iowa. The snow begins to exit the area around noon or so. But then as it begins to depart, that strong wind begins to move in. Northwest winds gusting upwards of 50 miles per hour, especially through the day on Friday. In terms of those wind gusts through Friday, we're going to start talking about those wind gusts, 45, 50, maybe even 55 miles per hour. That's as a very strong low pressure that's bringing this snow rapidly intensifies off to the east and brings with it a very tight pressure gradient, therefore stronger wind gusts. We have not really talked a lot about snowfall amounts because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. 2 inches. 4 inches or 6 inches of snow, it all looks the same when we're talking about this light, fluffy snow in combination with the really strong wind gust around 50 miles per hour. With that said, I think a good 3 to 7 inches looks pretty likely for most of the area, but it'll be very difficult to actually measure it. Once the snow begins to pull out, you can see tomorrow temperatures plummet. We're going below zero, probably around 8 or 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then through the afternoon, temperatures continue to fall. Tomorrow night, dropping to near 10 below zero, and those wind chills crater as well. Through late Thursday, the entire day Friday, and most of your Saturday, wind chills will be in that 30 to 40 degree below range, and that is of very big concern because frostbite can settle in as little as 5 to 10 minutes. Bundle up if you have to be outside. Not much happening on the 7-day forecast, but a light chance for snow early part of next week.
Thanks, Nick. The Iowa roster taking shape a week and a half ahead of the Music City Bowl. Kirk Ferentz today talking about the QB situation on the Hawkeye roster. That and some highlights from Carver Hawkeye after the break on Iowa's News Now.
This is Iowa's News Now Sports with Owen Sebring.
A week and a half out from the Music City Bowl, the Hawkeyes lineup will look vastly different from what it was during the regular season, much less a year ago when they played this same Kentucky team. Only 7 offensive players from the 2 deep are on the depth chart this time around. Under center for Iowa will be Joe Labus, a player of whom you'll be seeing a lot of warm-up video because that's all we've got. The redshirt freshman QB hasn't played a single snap in any game for Iowa in his 2 years in the black and gold. Thanks to an injury to Spencer Petras and Alex Padilla entering the transfer portal, Labus is the next man in Nashville.
It's really hard to work more than 2 quarterbacks during the course of a season, so that's where this is a really unusual situation. And you know, the person who suffered the most here is Spencer, just because ended up being an injury that needed surgery. So that part's really hard, and it's hard for him to be out there watching with a sling on and all that. But he's doing a great job helping and really coaching Joe up, and those guys all get along great. And so that's where each and every snap is really important for both those quarterbacks.
Labus' backup on the depth chart is Carson May, a true freshman out of Oklahoma. The 3rd-string QB, well, Kirk said today, quote, "Your guess is as good as mine." An eventful afternoon in Iowa City. Both the Hawkeye men's and women's games moved up due to the incoming weather. Women taking on Dartmouth. Caitlin Clark pulls down a double-double with 20 points and 10 rebounds. More importantly, she surpasses 2,000 points in her Hawkeye career. Just 75 games in, she is tied for the fastest player in NCAA men's or women's history to reach 2,000 points. 4 Hawkeyes finish in double figures as Iowa wins by 38. On the Dartmouth side, Iowa City West graduate Emma Cook finishes with 3 points, all from the free throw line in her return to Iowa City. On the men's side, well, all we want for Christmas is some healthy limbs from the Hawkeye lineup. Chris Murray still out with a foot injury. Connor McCaffrey out with a wrist injury, but come on, it's Eastern Illinois, no problem, even for a depleted roster, right? Tony Perkins' 3 puts Iowa ahead 16-4 in the first half. Right before the halftime horn, the reigning Big Ten Player of the Week, Philip Rabracha, with a tip-in. Iowa had a seemingly comfortable 8-point lead at halftime, but the Hawkeyes lay an egg over the final 20 minutes. EIU outscores Iowa 55-38 in the second half, ranked number 356 in the Ken Palm rankings. This is statistically The worst loss of Fran McCaffrey's time at Iowa. The Hawkeyes were 31.5-point favorites coming in. By that margin, this is the biggest upset in college basketball history. Not exactly a banner day for the Iowa men's team.
And we do have that blizzard warning now in effect along and north of I-80 for a large portion of eastern Iowa. Please limit any travel as we go into your Thursday and Friday. Live team coverage coming up tonight. Iowa's News Now at 9 and 10. Stay safe, stay warm. We'll see you later.